we're here. It's crazy. If everything just falls apart and blows up midstream, then I apologize. It's just, it is what it is. Doing my best over here. But thank y'all for being here. I am honored and blessed to have the two GOATs, the one and only Josh Carpe Noctem, along with Mr. Bitcoin Reginald Shitcoin. We're glad you're here, guys. Go ahead and give your howdies, and then we'll kick this Market Power Hour episode, whatever, off.
Yeah, glad Jack's got his shit together after getting liquidated IRL, and people know who we are. The good people know who we are, don't they?
That's true.
We're like the three people who are worth following on Twitter. Let's be honest. Come on. My head, this forum is gonna get so big.
That's true. Also the most modest as well.
Oh yeah, easily the most humble, the most modest, the most beautiful, might add. Beautiful. Yeah, tall, handsome, bearded.
The power trio, as chat says.
Chiseled chins.
Chiseled. Yeah, well, yeah. Anyway, yeah. So we had that flush. We had OI come down a bit. We had what else do we have? We had funding come down a bit. Everything looks better than it did.
Nice little reset. Nice little reset.
That's pretty much the long and short of it here. Larry kept buying. Massive inflows for IBIT.
As did Sailor.
Look, I mean, if we're down 15% on a day, generally it's a good day to buy. Generally. You just want to make sure that you're not one of these people getting liquidated trading SHIB at 50, 500x leverage, whatever people do. That's pretty much it. And you just want to survive. Signs were there. We were going parabolic on Bitcoin. Alts were popping off. Trash was up 300% on the week. Like, don't say that you didn't know if you got liquidated. Okay. And if you didn't know, now you know the signs. That's my long and short of that. No, you don't get a pity party. No, there's no free rides. But yeah, everything is good. Everything is really good. ETH made a new high. Bunch of alt charts popping off. Near 26% today. Near.
As well as
who's talking about that one? Me, this guy, weeks ago. I'll take that. I'll take that W. All right. We can.
Well, who wants to kick it off? It's not me, because God knows I.
He's already doing it. Go ahead.
Josh, get into it. Share your screen.
He already kicked it off. It's been.
I literally woke up like half hour ago.
Dude, so did I.
I don't have anything like prepared.
Yeah.
Oh well, then I'll go.
Yeah, you go. You go. I'll do my homework.
All right. Let me make sure. It looks good. Go ahead and share a screen and.
Sure, don't. I always almost accidentally share my fucking
your
trading
face
account.
Oh
no, I don't care about that.
Yeah, good idea to minimize that one. There it is.
All right, so
good looking chart.
Is this streaming?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, I'll zoom out on this. This is me just like pixel fucking the charts. All right, so
technical term.
Yeah, technical term. So no surprise here, right? Dude, I hate Zoom. Get this thing out of my, you guys can't see it, but every stream it's like there's like this little
yeah, just move it. Jesus, we don't need to hear about it.
But it's just it's so inconvenient. Anyway, so UI sucks. Anyway, so this chart is doing exactly what I hoped it would do. It's very similar to what we did the last two parabolic market cycles in the early stages, right? So we see this gentle wicking of the all-time high, followed by what is normally a 10 to 20% immediate correction. And that can be explained through multiple channels. You have people taking profit because, of course, it's logical spot to take profit. You have people who have been bag holding for God knows how long. They're finally break even. The slightest hint of a pullback is going to scare the shit out of them, so they sell. You have people that are hyper leveraged, so they're ratcheting up the market, and most likely on high leverage, which means that if we moved 14%, anyone 10x or greater, 8x or greater is liquidated, right? That's just how the math works out. So even someone who's not 50x is feeling the pain on this pullback. And no surprise here, when it did pull back, it pulled back through a logical liquidity pool, which was, I'll address this yellow zone here in a minute, but we took out all the stops. If you play this bull pennant thing, logical stops are here, 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 maybe here if you were early on it. But when it started to structurally make this bull pennant, these are the logical stops. And of course, we wicked right through them. So even if you were a responsible trader, you got long in the breakout somewhere over here, you're putting stops somewhere here, you of course got stopped out as well. And what do you know, we immediately rallied right off of the wick, right? So we're almost back at the all-time high already. We're in striking distance. We got another 3.5% until the all-time high, which is crazy to think about, but it makes sense. This is what the market has done historically. So I'll show you prior examples of this. This is what we did back in 2020, right? So we had our all-time high here. We marginally cleared it. Like if we zoom in, we marginally cleared it here. And we pulled back, knee-jerk reaction. There was some pullback before, so this it's a little different in structure, but point being is that as we approach the all-time high, strong, aggressive pullbacks that are meant to scare the shit out of you. And if you were a dip buyer, maybe you're even, some of your confidence is waning, but we saw 10% there. You saw an even bigger one here, 16%. When we go back to 2017, we saw, I gotta go to BLX. We saw, the hell is this? Get out of here. Why is this on my chart? Weird. We saw something very similar here as well. So let me go back. Boom. 33% pullback. I think.
Sheesh.
I think even here, right? So boom, 36% pullback. So point being is that this makes sense. Like this isn't, in my humble opinion, this isn't a sign of weakness or lacking strength in the market. This is just something that makes logical sense to me. This is something that I was expecting to happen. And the signs that this is, going according to plan is we see capital rotation happening. We see Ethereum making a new high, for example. We see other things, which I'll talk about here in a second, making structurally significant moves that in other market conditions would break the structure and instead is reinforcing the structure. So some examples of that. I have, of course, Ethereum going on here. When we look at Solana, for example, we've got this 1-day range. We saw this massive pullback, and it's finding support where we want to see support being held. And this becomes one of those like support turn resistance zones. And this is like a textbook perfect chart, in my opinion. I'm really curious to see where this daily candle closes because the prior candle was a bearish engulfing. But it makes sense just given the overall, the overall conditions of the market. Link is another one that I'm really bullish on. I know people are like, Link, I haven't heard anyone talk about Link in a while, but from a structural standpoint, Link is one of the cleanest trading charts out there. It makes these perfect ranges. It makes these perfect breakouts, makes perfect reaccumulation trading ranges. It's like, if you trade trading ranges, these are perfect market conditions. And so what I see with Link is, more of the same. I see what I believe is a reaccumulation trading range. We saw a breach of the low, a subsequent strong rally on high spread. What I would be looking for now is a reclaim of this zone here. If you're familiar with my terminology, this would be our POI. our point of interest. If we reclaim this zone of support or close above it, that is a strong buying opportunity in my trading system. But going back to Bitcoin, which everyone really cares about, when we go to things like CME futures chart, this looks great. It made a new all-time high, had a strong pullback. But here we are. We have another strong daily candle forming. When we look at the Bollinger Bands, this is perfect trend. Okay, we saw a knee-jerk reaction here, but we're back at the upper band. So back to riding the bands. What we don't want to see is we don't want to see the market deviating into the bands, things like that, maybe even breaking the midline if it comes up that high. But this looks like a typical bull market, parabolic market, early stages parabolic market, where I'm saying parabolic in the grand scheme of things, not like obviously on the hourly chart, it was parabolic and it broke the parabola, but these are early stage bull market things where Bitcoin rides the bands, it pops down and it recovers within like a day or two. When we look at the weekly chart on spot, we'll go to Coinbase for that. We look at the weekly chart for B bands. You say, oh, what pullback? Oh, you mean the one that went back to the weekly band and bounced? Nice. That's fine. Who gives a shit, right?
I still like their opening outside of the band, so that's not usually that's overbought conditions,
Yes, but it can do that indefinitely. As long as it recovers on the correction. So like we can see it did this over and over again. The B bands will catch up to it. It definitely opens the door. Totally agree. It opens the door for overbought conditions. I don't want to see something like this where it just turbo sends it through new all-time high. What I want to see is like something like this, where back in the market conditions were just that. We see these sorts of things all the time. But from a structural standpoint, this is great. I see we closed right at resistance. So I have like this resistance zone here, right? Prior weekly candle closed right at resistance. And now we can see the early tinglings of a like
we're tingling
SR flip.
Oh, we are tingling.
Yeah. If it closes anywhere around here, we're closing a new all-time high. And even if we don't break a new all-time high like here, this is fine. If we're closing anywhere up here above 63.2, let's just call it 63K, that is continuation station, in my opinion. So all this stuff just says, continuations on the books. Altcoins aren't getting drained of their cash. Typically, the flow of capital goes Bitcoin to altcoins and then altcoins back to Bitcoin. And we're not seeing that at all. We're just seeing overall capital just going into the market. So great, cool. Everything looks perfect to me. And then when we look at like traditional stuff, like stocks, like no signs of an overbought market here. It's just business as usual, cruising, just perfect. Everyone was bearish going into the all-time high. People were talking about recession. Well, okay, that's fine. But the charts say otherwise. Even with things like gold futures made a new all-time high. So Peter Schiff can finally have something to be happy about. But apparently he only wants to tweet about Bitcoin anyway. It's kind of nuts. But anyway, point being,
the engagement.
Bullish markets abound. It's just everywhere you look, except for the housing market, is saying bulls on bulls on bulls here all day. Sorry, but
that's in regards to gold. Luke Roman had an interesting tweet talking about real rates when real rates are diverging from gold, that it's generally not a good sign. I don't remember if it was real rates or if it was TLT. He's basically saying like if gold is rising in the environment that we're in now, like that just says that there isn't a lot of confidence in our debt situation, which makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, didn't Biden just do another round of student loan forgiveness? He's trying to get that pushed through too. So there's a lot of inflationary spending going on.
It's an interesting point though, that like in an environment, if we're heading into a risk on environment where all the risk on assets, take off, that why would gold be one of the things to go up with it? which I think is what the tweet you were talking about was saying. I had never thought of that, so it just kind of struck me.
Well,
That is interesting.
it's gold. It's like it's at a nominal all-time high or whatever you want to call it. No, notional. I don't even know what the technical term is, but the inflation adjusted all-time high is quite higher than.
Oh, I'm sure.
Oh,
The same thing with Bitcoin. Bitcoin's inflation adjusted all-time high is like 79. So if the gold bugs are celebrating, I get it. Like if you're long gold, you're happy. I get it. But in reality, even Bitcoin, like we're
Yeah.
not quite there yet.
There's people who come into my streams and that's how they chart. They're like, they'll send me a link to look at, and it's like adjusted for inflation or something. I can't really do it. I don't know. It feels
mentally
weird.
think about that constantly, but
Yeah.
But living through the quarter purchasing power erosion we've had, it's definitely something to think about.
Interesting.
Right?
Yeah, I mean that's definitely something to think about. But from like a structural standpoint, I don't think charts really give a shit about that because your stops are where your stops are. So
and gold was bullish for like 2 years before it broke out anyway. So
yeah. So something interesting to note too is that our parabolic market in 2017 began, right at basically the gold bottom, and then gold just kind of hung out during our bear market. So it'll be interesting to see them both rise together.
The other crazy stat is we have almost half of the gold flows. Sorry, Bitcoin has almost half of the total gold ETF AUM in 2 months. 2 months.
I saw that.
Wild.
Yeah.
Absolutely wild.
I think that could probably also be accounted for by the fact that, I mean, gold's not super hot right now, so I think anyone who has a gold position bought it a long time ago.
Well, the other part of that is gold ETF flows have been negative for months. Like people are pulling
it's just
money
not doing
out.
shit. It's been in a range for the last 4 years. It's been in a range, so people are watching tech stocks blow up. They're watching all this other stuff gain in value.
Religion. They're losing their religion.
Yeah, exactly. Except for Peter Schiff, he's hanging in there.
Watch him be like a billionaire from it. Somehow it pays off.
I mean, he definitely is. I mean, that's like his whole shtick is that he's like a gold asset manager and owns gold, like physical gold bullion companies. And
so, Schmitty, what's your favorite chart right now? Then,
favorite chart?
Is it Solana? Is it Bitcoin? Is it Link?
So it's hard to say. I mean, they're all special in my eyes.
Okay,
but if you're asking like best bang for your buck, I'm still liking the Dogecoin chart personally. I think they're, especially with, I don't know, go back on my screen share. Doge.
I just pulled up the weekly Doge candle, and it's not pretty. But it's not over. It's not over, but it's not pretty. I think it's gonna need a couple weeks to consolidate at least.
I see a lot of that, honestly.
That's. I mean, it's not the end of the world.
No, definitely not.
But what I like the most about it is the monthly B bands. This thing is just like, this says dip buying city. Like the fact that you have monthly B band expansion. Yeah, I mean,
the one person in the world looking at the monthly B bands on Doge.
I
agree with you. I agree
less than that.
10,000%.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but I think there's a really good chance that it at least 4x's, which is like from here to the all-time high, or better, which it historically does do better. And it'll be on the heels of like consolidation, like you said, or some sort of pullback. But like if we look at the daily chart on Doge, these sorts of aggressive pullbacks aren't unfamiliar to Doge,
No, so, for sure, 100%.
Like this is the obvious equivalent here is this, so it could chop city, just bore people out of their minds, and then just one day you get this Chad candle where it's 1,400%. So, point being,
well, that's what I had been expecting that we're seeing with Floki or this other garbage that people are trading, right? It's just like 300% in a day. It's like, what?
Yeah, dude. I have a bunch of people in my Discord that are trading that stuff, and I kind of just tune it out because I learned from the 2017 bull market that it doesn't match my, like, my advice to people is you got to find what matches your personality type. And to be honest with you, crypto isn't for everybody. So a lot of people lose their ass because it's just not, their brains aren't wired to trade that speed of volatility. And same thing with altcoins. My brain is just not wired for it. I get like FOMO pretty bad. And I'm sure I like now that I've been trading for a lot longer, I would be better suited for it. But I do find that I get the like, I'm like chasing my tail, trying to be like, oh, this is the next thing that's gonna pop. That's the next thing that's gonna pop. I spread myself too thin, and then it finally runs, and I'm just like sitting on my thumb, like waiting for my moment in the sun, you know? And so I just stick to what I'm good at now. And I trade high cap alts sometimes. And then Bitcoin is my main squeeze. So
Speaking of
I
high
don't,
cap alts, if Doge does continue on the monthly B band, it's going to be like an $8 trillion market cap before too long.
what would that
Don't
put
worry,
it in
don't
terms
worry.
of like the market cap standing?
Number one in the world. Don't worry though.
I mean, I'm for it, dude.
50% of the supply's missing, so it's fine. That's a joke, but
It's a joke, but like, isn't it like incredibly centralized though? Like someone owns a significant percentage of Doge, which
Elon.
is why these dumps don't ever retrace fully. Like they don't ever come back down to here. They just retrace, you know, whatever.
until the last dump.
Even though it's 93%, it's like when we go to the, where's my, there we go. You know, it only goes down to, there's this huge gap, and it does it every cycle. And by every cycle, I mean it's done it 3 times.
Well, retail is great at holding losses. I mean, they'll hold that to 0. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh,
and
I'm
that's
sure there's Dogecoin maximalists like praying for the day that Elon starts allowing Doge transactions for Teslas and shit.
well, you got the bonk guy who's still up 13 million, probably more now. Refuses to
Yeah.
close. Who knows if that's a real position or not? But
Well,
It's a
the
good
question is like,
story either way.
can he even close it though?
that's what I was wondering. Like, okay, so you close some of it, fine. Like, what is the exchange gonna do? They're gonna tell you, hey, we need more KYC, or sorry, that's not good enough, or whatever. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I would just feel like I think that's on a specific exchange. I won't name names, but I would get very nervous with that size on an exchange that that position is on anyway.
Yeah, they're gonna start scrutinizing you. I just mean from like a liquidity standpoint. Like,
Oh
are
yeah,
there
for
that
sure.
many bonk buyers that like you could even offload that? I remember I knew someone that made a, do you remember Banano?
I was gonna bring that up. Yes, dude.
Dude,
No.
I knew someone who made a metric fuck ton off of Banano,
Yes.
and I was talking to him. He's like, dude, I can't sell this. He's like, he's like, he's been selling it for weeks and weeks. He's like, I can't get rid of this because
He has so much.
they're just he has so much and there's not enough buyers for it. And he's like, I'm trying to create methods like across all these exchanges, and the order books are just too thin. Like he's like,
I remember he round tripped it the very first cycle, the first market cycle or whatever. This was like 2018, 2019. And I mean, he had 8 digits in dollars at that time. I don't even know what it's done since then.
yeah. I don't think he round tripped it. Yeah, I know him because he's like in my trading group, and he definitely got out of it. But I remember he was just like, he was asking me. I was like, I don't know. I'm not a market maker. Like I don't know how to do that, you know. But anyway, so those people do exist, and these net worths are like they're until you sell it, they're fucking unrealized. It's UPNL for a reason.
Yeah, exactly. It is unrealized until it's in your hot little hand in your bank account. So keep that in mind.
Yeah. Anyway,
Josh, you do your thing.
All right.
You're probably more prepared than I am.
What? This is your stream.
Yeah.
Bum.
IRL liquidated, as Josh put it.
Oh my god, there's things in my way. Oh, it's the worst. Sorry.
Who am I? Whoa. Whoa.
That was so aggressive.
I feel attacked.
I kind of respect it.
It's been all about the flows and the ETFs. I don't think there's anybody trading who doesn't know what's going on there, I hope. But yesterday we had 788 million in from BlackRock. The total flows not the net, but the inflows for the day almost broke $1 billion, which is insane. Absolutely insane. I mean, there's going to be days coming up potentially where BlackRock's alone is going to have $1 billion in inflows. They're buying like 10,000 BTC a day. Miners are mining 900 a day. You've got some guy from 2010 selling 2,000 BTC. Like, it'll even out, okay, right? Everybody's got a number. We'll find out what that number is pretty shortly here. But BlackRock is buying, and that's what you need to keep prices up here. You know, last time we were up here, SBF was selling, right? He was selling your Bitcoin, right? Not you guys, but and that helped suppress the price. This time we have the opposite. We have a buyer, and a big one.
Do you know if like people like the person that you said was selling 2,000 Bitcoin a day?
Yeah.
Do you know if they're selling them at a market premium when they do that, or are they just selling at a market rate, or like what's the?
I don't know which exchange they ended up selling it to, but I'm sure somebody's figured that out. But I mean, they could have just sent it to an exchange and market sold. I mean,
there's a handful of OG Bitcoiners I follow, and these guys are not analysts. They don't care about technicals. They're like, you know, been around since 2010, 2011 guys. And they were talking about how they and some of their friends had people reach out to them from these OTC desks offering them like some sort of premium. They said it wasn't crazy. It was like, you know, like 5% or something over spot, but they were offering them a premium for big bulk buys. And they're
that like I'm thinking like a futures premium type thing where
yeah,
they're like, okay, yeah, you know, it's at 67 now. I'll buy it at 75K, and like that's their price point. They're like, okay, I'll sell it to you for 75K a coin because they think long term it's going to go up. So I was wondering if there was data on that, because that would be interesting.
According to them, it was a matchmaker thing. Like they already had buyers ready at those prices, and so and that just made them like, you know, grip even tighter onto the Bitcoin they had. They're like, hell no, and thank you for, you know, adding to my resolve. I'm not selling.
Someone asking in the chat if it's discounted. Usually, in a bull market, you know, it's like a futures price. So if there's an expectation of higher prices and there's a demand, generally there's, you know, you're gonna pay a little bit more.
Yeah,
especially if they're clean virgin coins. Okay, if they've never been touched.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
That's
like you mean like straight from a miner?
Straight from the miner, straight from the tap. You know,
Schmitty, you love miners, right?
Well,
clip it.
I'll share the Google Doc link in the Jack's Discord later. But
cool.
The important part here is when we have the dips like we do, like, you know, this wasn't a bear market dip where, okay, we just keep going, right? Like someone's going to be buying today and tomorrow and the day after and then next week. So I think it's just important to remember that, right? Because we do have this historical distribution of expectations for worst days, and that's not like intraday moves, that's just the closing day. And the one that sticks out is obviously COVID was almost 40% on the close on the day. You know, I'd be hard pressed to think of something worse than that. Like what could happen? I think if we get like a minting bug, or if Satoshi's coins move, or there's a crack in the code or something, like that's a you know, that's a terrible day for Bitcoin. But everything else is distributed around, let's say 15% ish. Even last year we had a pretty tame worst day at 7%. It wasn't even yesterday it was the worst day. The worst day was actually like January 12th, I think. At least so far this year.
That's based off closes? Because I know it wicked worse than that. Okay.
Yeah, the wick yesterday from top to bottom was like 14.4% or something. But the takeaway here is like, looking at the forward performance of even the worst days, this bottom half here is green. Like logically, not logically, but statistically, it's a good time to buy when we're down.
And what is that? So is that the week following the worst day? Is that what that means?
Yeah. So the week following, the month following, the year following. Generally, you're closing higher than you were on the worst day. That's the forward performance. And then if we just aggregate all those together, you know, 3 months after the worst day is the best performing statistically.
And if you focus on 2016 and 2020, the last halving years, which seems pretty close to where we are today, those are good years. Those are pretty solid greens across.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, really good years. And then on the right side is from Econometrics, the 10 worst days of each year tend to, again, gravitate towards that, let's say 10%. I wish he had like a midpoint tick here, but it's around 10%. So if we're anywhere in that wheelhouse on the day, it's usually a good sign to think about buying if you haven't, okay? NFA. But yesterday was one of those days, right? So that worked out. Another thing you'll notice on this chart is that over the years, the distribution of worst days has gotten tighter and gotten less bad. So that tells me liquidity is generally getting better throughout the years. I guess we'll do low time frame first. Somebody pointed this out. Like I said, I just woke up. I haven't really looked at a chart, but there is a case to be made, I guess, for a low time frame inverted head and shoulders. I'm a chart pattern guy, always looking for a chart pattern. We are on low time frames. We are parabolic. Alts are popping off again. Funding is probably up a little bit again. Not as bad as before, but
it completely reset yesterday.
It did
on everything.
Yeah,
nice.
Which was good. We needed that forest floor cleansing, right? But this measures to not quite 80. 80 is the next yearly pivot. But as far as an actionable trade, I think you have to look at the lower time frames right now. Unfortunately, I get a little bit uncomfortable because when you go down on the time frames, anything can happen. But this looks pretty legit to me. You know, another just breakout idea is we make higher highs, which effectively is a new all-time high, and that's game on, right? So far so good.
The measured move off of that Adam and Eve double bottom is a new all-time high. Like where we like
down here
pierced. Yeah. It's a new all-time high is the measured move from that.
Yeah, and we held the yearly pivot. So, you know, as terrible as this looked while it was happening, it was pretty much a liquidation cascade.
Yeah.
On top of what Schmitty was talking about, which is just, you know, people were selling. My guess is as well, somebody is watching coin ages. So when older coins move, like that 2010 coin, I'm guessing there were some just algo selling that, because I don't think 2K BTC alone is enough to just, even if he sold it into the market, I don't think that's enough to drop us 15% on the day, you know. But low time frames, we survived the night, we recovered. That's good. Zooming way out, just the purest basic form of fibs gives you a fib extension from basically 100 to 120, which is realistic based on the depth here. We could always just stop at 70 or whatever. I don't think that's going to happen again based on the ETF stuff, but another possibility up here is like a cup and handle or something just stalling out for a while. All of it's eventually still bullish. There's nothing that says this looks like a reversal just yet. So it's good. You know, and I don't see how to read this any other way. The daily cloud, we are a little bit overbought, I guess you could argue. We always want to look at is price distance relative to the blue and red line. The blue and red line's distance relative to the cloud itself. And then the thickness or thinness of the cloud. Or kind of, you know, this is a different speed than the previous quarter, right? October, November, December, we were pretty tight on the Tenkin, that higher, lower time frame moving average. And you can see how we've just sort of shot up and accelerated since February. But it's not overbought enough that it can't go higher. It's just a matter of, like, you know, trading price discovery is hard because everybody knows this is overbought. Everybody knows legacy is arguably too bullish. But here we are, right? Like, it's a tough situation when you don't really have a lot of high time frame consolidations in your favor, you know, to say like, oh, this could point higher or whatever. But the cloud looks okay, you know. Worst case 54 would be the Tenkin, sorry, Kijun on the daily. That would be the 50% retracement, but looks okay. Looks okay. More evidence for parabolic advance. We have this pitchfork that we are 3 light years away from at this point, which we talked about last stream. But once you have a channel that's well established and you exceed that channel, it generally means the rate of change is speeding up, right? So this also points to the likelihood of insane continuation because we've sort of exited the loading dock of the rocket ship, you know. So Bitcoin looks good. I don't really have anything else on BTC. ETH long term zoomed way out, same channel relative to 2019. Looks good. I mean, this has plenty of room for higher. I think ETH easily hits all-time highs. It just, what is the ETH BTC number, you know? But I have no issues with this chart. It survived the lows. Send it. ETH people are going to be insufferable, unfortunately, but that's just the way it is. The midpoint here is the high probability retracement, which would be, you know, 5, 6, 7K in the near term ish within the next couple months, I'd imagine pretty easily. You really got to worry about this when it gets outside of this channel. And even in 21 and 22, it kind of lived way above. But this looks fine. You know, I think 10K this cycle easy for ETH, no question, based on this. Again, with the ultra basic div extensions, 7, 8, easily on the cards. You know, maybe this finds resistance at 4,800. I don't know. Like, again, all this is parabolic still, right? Like, you can draw it with your imaginary parabolic pen. Until this finds some blow off number, we party. So we're still partying. Looks good. It's just hard to trade that because, what, you know, again, like low time frames, I guess you're looking for a pullback. Otherwise, you're just longing every higher high, you know. I don't know. I don't know what you guys think about that, but it always makes me a little nervous to trade that if you're not already positioned well enough on leverage or something.
That's why I always preach having objective tools like B-bands, EMA, cloud, or whatever, because it provides you. Like I'm also on that boat. I don't like buying higher highs. Like I like to have my back to a wall, so at least I know what failure looks like. Because if you buy the higher high, shit, it could go 10% against you and you're still right in the trade, but you're still losing money. And that sucks to be right and still losing money. So having things like a mean reversion to the midline of the B bands or a hard Kijun tap, like those are great buying opportunities. Buying higher highs just always sketches me out, even if I'm like supremely confident in the overall trend, personally.
Yeah, one thing you can use is Williams fractals, which you'd have to bump yourself down to like the 1 hour or the 2 hour at this point, which is already dangerous again because you're on low time frames. But that at least gives you some non-subjective. Basically, it just looks at the candles, and if the candles are making higher highs after dipping, that's an entry, and then it gives you a trailing stop loss on the bottom side. But you do have to move down time frames. For ETH BTC, we talked about this last week. I won't rehash it, but the iShares, the not IBIT, but BlackRock and Fidelity deadline was this week. Those both got delayed. The next round of deadlines doesn't even matter. It's May. It's all about the final deadline. That's when, if this stuff does get approved, that's probably when it's going to happen. So that's after having, relative to when that happens on this price chart, you know, I think as long as it's delayed and not denied, ETH can run. What's going to get interesting is if this does get denied. I don't know what the odds are on the Bloomberg people, but I can't imagine it's like 90%. You know, I think it is a little bit iffy, even though they have a good case to approve this. We'll see.
When's the date? When's the decision?
The final deadline is for ARK. Sorry, for VanEck is last week in May, basically.
Oh, okay. So we got a minute.
So it doesn't, like, in the moment, it doesn't matter if this gets approved. Price doesn't care. Price just wants the opportunity for approval. But if that, if BlackRock pulls out, or if this gets denied outright, then that makes ETH super interesting to trade, because then what happens? Do they reapply? Do they go to court? I don't know. But the technicals to me still look like a diamond bottom in the making here. Probably better viewed on the 3-day than the weekly. But what I was kind of saying with this is we could grind this out until halving, and then post halving, pre-final deadline, that's when ETHBTC pops up, makes its Hail Mary, and then we see what happens with the ETFs. But I think this pattern is very much still alive for ETHBTC.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It's just tough to trade because it's clearly been super volatile. So I don't know. Go ahead.
That also looks like a reaccumulation trading range, by the way. And that is the creek going into the spring right now.
Mm-hmm.
And an ETF approval would definitely have it sending up to your yellow zone you had on your chart. And if that happens, then I think that obviously the 10K argument that you had for ETHUSD makes perfect sense there.
I just don't know where you decide to pull the trigger. I guess you're hoping for a couple more lower highs, and then that gives you a better entry in April.
For me, if on your chart, a 3-day close above the apex of your little diamond thing,
yeah,
would be the early canary in the coal mine type situation.
Right.
I think that's a good call. Like set an alert right there and just walk away and wait.
Yeah. Like a close, not a wick, but a close up there.
Because the other side of the trade would be if that's just some sort of like consolidation wedge and then the floor gives out or something like that. So you don't want to be too early. But if this does aggressively break up, it could get real nasty real quick.
Yeah, I agree. Like this is like if we're above 0.615 or whatever, then send it. I think if this could continue to consolidate and you get one last lower high, it just gives you a better entry. That's all, I think. But I agree, like that's where you're most confident that this thing's going to continue. So there's something to think about for people who are trading both of those.
I hadn't even looked at ETHBTC. I'm glad you pointed that out. Something to keep in mind.
that larger chart that you showed, like that looks like a reaccumulation trading range.
It's not bad.
And especially because we took out the low on the far left there on your chart.
Not only that, but like that's like, yeah, right. And that's like to me, that's the market saying, okay, here's your opportunity to break down. And then, there's this extended period of time, like months, like, okay, we're going to drop. Okay, let's do it. And just never did it.
Yeah, it's consolidating at the bottom of the range, which is typical of like mid-stage reaccumulation.
Yeah, I think that's a good read.
It's wild that ETH has even kept up with Bitcoin, with the flows what they are. But
yeah, that is actually a really good point.
A lot of it is crypto native trading, right? So
yeah, and speculation on that.
Like if there was no ETH ETF to get approved, it'd be interesting what price would look like. Speaking of Doge, we're in the weekly cloud. This looks good. At this point, I don't know what you do with this chart if you're not already in. Again, I guess you're just hoping for some dip buys here. The cloud's going to flip bullish in a week or two on the weekly, but this may like kind of like Link, how Link broke out of its accumulation range and then just kind of sat there for a little while. That may be what happens with Doge. And then like Q4, it like actually moves, which would be a wild additional accumulation here, but that's what the cloud would want. Now, if it's above 20 cents anytime between now and Q4, that's good enough, but the resistance sort of burns off into Q4. And that
go ahead. Does Doge historically even have a bullish cloud? Like its market cycle is really relatively short. Does it even like historically, does it ever even really flip bullish until it's like done doing its thing,
Yeah, if we look at the on the weekly at least, the cloud is just like a sliver because it just goes straight up.
Yeah.
But the last cycle, it waited until it was outside of the weekly cloud And if we look at the halving periods, you know, it waited. Even in 2016, it waited. A few, how long is this? What is this? 200 days? Is that right? Yeah. So we'll say April, 200 days. Yeah, that would bring us to Q4, November. So just something to watch if you are like me, and some of you guys are like sitting in Doge wondering like what's going on here. But I think post-halving is when Doge will break out. I don't know if it's going to wait till Q4, but generally Doge does best post-halving. This is also interesting on the weekly. It tapped the bearish keychain on the weekly there. So I don't know. I just think if you're in this stuff, you just got to be patient and you got to have some conviction, and you can't be bouncing around because there are so many charts that look bottomy that you just got to give it time. You know? So that's Doge. ETC, same thing. You know, I don't think any of this stuff needs to exist, should exist, but it does, and we're trading it. So here we are. There's a massive Adam and Eve on this. Maybe the biggest Adam and Eve you've ever seen in your life. Here's the Adam. Here's the Eve. Took a whole year plus. I think this could go to 100.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what's keeping me in this trade. I don't know about higher than that, but you know, like Doge, it's in a similar spot where it looks decent enough. It has looked pretty good for a little while. ETCG, which nobody cares about, I get it, but if you're in legacy land, ETCG is the ETH Classic Trust. It has a massive discount still, and it broke out a couple days ago from its resistance at like 13. So if you're bullish ETC and you want additional, it's the GBTC trade all over again, right?
Dude, that chart you just showed was really bullish. Massive bearish engulfing, and then the current daily candle, that's screaming for like reactionary continuation.
Yeah,
especially if it closes a new high. That might be like an amazing trade with that discount you were saying on the what is it, the fund, whatever the fuck it is.
Do you know if there was no discount, what it should be? Oh wow, 45%.
Yeah,
discount.
that's the same thing as the GPTC thing last year.
Yeah. All right.
The mechanics are different. GBTC closed because it converted. There was an expectation to convert. I don't think there's an expectation of an ETC ETF or anytime soon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fair.
Or ever. But does the market even care? Like, is there an opportunity to convert? I don't know.
I just like any catch-up trade right now rather than you know buying Doge at the peak kind of thing.
Yeah. Just something to think about, because all the other trusts, you know, as we go down here, Filecoin 2400% premium.
Oh, premium! Oh my god!
Yeah. All the other trusts except ETH still have a discount. Sorry, premium are massively. So these are just a massive avoid. But if you want something similar to GBTC, it's just an idea. Okay, don't shoot me if it doesn't work out, but something to think about. And then lastly, these are 8 different edge-to-edge trades. Okay, the quality of what this stuff is kind of irrelevant, but to me, like mana, waves, okay, names that people haven't thought about in a while,
Yeah,
look really good. They do. Like Flow's another one. Like there's probably 10 to 20 that look similar to this. Near, like I said earlier, it's up 30% or whatever it is today, just randomly. This is the kind of stuff, like you're saying, like the catch-up trades that looks good to me here, rather than like adding to a Doge position or a SHIB position or something like that. So all these charts look bottomy in their own little way, right? Adam and Eve, inverted head and shoulders, whatever. They all look decent. And then lastly, real quick, for legacy, I don't know how high MSTR can theoretically go based on how much BTC they have, but I think this easily keeps going along with Bitcoin. It is still in its pitchfork, but I think it's going to live in the upper half of this pitchfork instead of the bottom half from now on. I don't know what you do here. There was a short squeeze a couple days ago. Sailors buying more BTC. The one good reason that I've heard that this is actually outperforming Bitcoin, so it's basically trading like a 2x Bitcoin or more. The one good reason is people overseas who don't have access to the ETFs do have access to this. So this is their vehicle, right? Kind of like the miners, like that's what they can trade, that's what they touch. So I don't know. I don't have any trade ideas here. It's just, kind of absurd the way this chart looks at this point. But it looks good. No denial there. And then lastly, Coinbase. I don't think any of us love Coinbase. The fees are crazy. They're Bitcoiners first, Bitcoiners last. But based on the flows that they're seeing with retail trading, ETF custody, ETF trading, potential ETH ETFs, if they can hold their exchange together with duct tape and gum and whatever else is going on there, then their earnings this quarter should be insane. So this chart also looks very good. And if you match this up with Bitcoin again, it's a 2x on Bitcoin effectively is what it's trading at. So it's kind of like trading Bitcoin with 2x leverage. I'm not saying everybody should go all in coin. I'm just saying, like, if you want additional juice, coin is an option. But it looks good.
Nice. Yeah, a lot of my traditional market portfolios have outperformed my Bitcoin stuff, which is crazy. But it's because of a lot of these catch-up trades from the bear market to now.
Yeah, dude, even Nvidia is like, it's pushing another
new high
today.
I saw that. It's crazy. All right, let me we'll keep it brief, guys. I know we're closing in on an hour. We've got probably 5-10 minutes, and then we'll wrap it up. But let me show my screen if I can figure out where the button is. There we go. Okay. All right. Hey, there's me. All right, couple things that I've noticed. Let's start with this. Low time frame. I saw this on my cell phone as I was doing some traveling yesterday. I just thought this was kind of funny. Just made me chuckle. You had your Adam Eve, and then Eve Adam Eve, whatever on the low time frame. That's just funny. There is still this target in my mind. It makes a lot of sense. This poll flag, and then the extension. Where obviously there's all of this is very messy, but I still think this 75,000 makes a lot of sense. Of course, everything could fall apart between now and then, as with anything, but I like that. One of the things on the high time frame charts that I'm keeping my eye on is how the market rolled over and found a peak, once, twice. There's this sort of like, now I'm keeping an eye on what happens in here, like what the behavior of Bitcoin is as we approach this kind of zone. And I'll zoom in a little bit here just to kind of show a little bit more of what I did. But this is, is this great? Is this the world's best channel or whatever? No, but it's something, and markets have this way of taking even like kind of the most mundane trend lines and turning it into something where there's at least some volatility. So even if you don't say, hey, this is going to reverse here, even if you're not calling for reversal or whatever, at least you can kind of expect some volatility in this zone. And I think that would be worthwhile to keep your eye on, especially since, before too long, you're going to start seeing some back in time memes with how parabolic things are going, especially on the higher time frame. So anytime, and this is just historically speaking here, anytime you see Bitcoin start to drift from basically sideways to a little up, and suddenly it's going parabolic, there's always some sort of like massive correction and then period of sideways, etc. So this area would make a lot of sense to at least start like kind of puckering up for something like that. Maybe just consolidation, or even one of these patented 30% pullbacks before the next leg up, whatever, something. But I think keeping your eye on here makes a lot of sense. Couple other things that are on my radar that I'm watching. I know we talked about some of these alts seem like they're already doing some really crazy explosive things. We talked about, you know, Doge and SHIB and all this, but here's a couple others. There's some stuff. Link is one of my favorite charts. I've talked about it for a long time. You know, we talked in the bowels of the bear market. We were talking about how Wycovian this whole thing looked. So let me put it back on. We'll leave it on log. That's fine. This whole range at the bottom on the 1 day, it was super clear. I really liked this. This is one of my favorite alt charts. But now here's where we are today. So this is us today. If we go in the lower I didn't mean 3 time frame, not a psycho. The 4 hour time frame, the market gave us this really clear little diagonal and then broke down below it. So one of two things is going to happen, and only one of two things. Either this is going to really cool off, maybe ride that the bottom side of that trend line, what was support, now resistance, and then, you know, give back a healthy portion. Targets for some sort of pullback would be anybody with a stop. You know, liquidity levels are always good things to look for. So somewhere down in this $13 range would make a lot of sense for a target of a pullback. Run all the stops of everybody right here. Option B, and obviously what most of the properly positioned bulls are hoping for, is some sort of explosive move to the upside. So anytime you have a bearish reversal, so this is a big, nice uptrend, you know, all the way down from about $5 and a little below up to 20. So a nice 4x move within the, you know, this entire uptrend. Anytime you have a bearish pattern forming at the end of a move, and then that pattern breaks, so maybe that's like a head and shoulders and it starts to break down, but then reverses, man, buckle up. That's when things get really crazy. So we could be seeing that right now. Obviously, it's too soon to tell, but I will be absolutely watching what happens here, because should this come back in, it could scream for a really big explosive move to the upside. And honestly, looking at the higher time frame and going back to the last last market cycle, this higher prices are not crazy. Nothing is silly about that. But I would personally hold off rather than punting along right here at this little decision point. Number one, we have this, you know, the price fell from this rising wedge, but number two, we're at this target that I think is going to be important to us. And we are just kind of consolidating around it. Not only that, but let me go back to the 4 hour. It's not just Link. There's actually several things across the board that are making the same pattern. And I've just kind of happened across them as I was clicking through some alts earlier. So not every alt looks like this, but there's enough that it makes me go, maybe I should, rather than punting a brand new fresh long or something, maybe we pump the brakes and see what happens here. There are some things that have not broken down yet. Like Sol is doing something very similar, but is not broken down. So Sol looks good, you know, by comparison to those others. There's things like Sushi that have actually made a new local high after the dip yesterday. It's gone on to print a new high. There's things like XRP and Litecoin. Both of these, for the same reason, would be something that I would look for a trade versus something like a catch up, you know, like punting along with Link or Alpha or Blur, like I was showing before. XRP, again, I have no loyalty to any of these. I'm no community member to any of these different coins, but whenever I see
talking about XRP,
we're talking about XRP. We're talking about
a
breakout of a 3-year downtrend always gets me puckered up. The same thing going on with Litecoin, a multi-year downtrend with a breakout, now retested with the liquidity shakedown or whatever you want to call it yesterday. So there's a lot of interesting things brewing. I think it's a good time to kind of look around and take stock of where the next trade is, rather than saying, okay, we're going to just forever, it's only going to be the Bonk show, or it's only going to be the Floki show, or whatever. Something to note on a lot of these charts on the meme coins. So here's Bonk, here's Floki, you know, here's Doge. Anytime I see a big parabolic blow off like we saw, anytime you have one of these and then a secondary rally that looks almost like a rising wedge, I have to, in the back of my head, there's this little red flag goes off that says this move is probably done for a minute. at least get some consolidation, whatever that looks like. Another run at the lows.
Community members, right?
Yeah, right.
They're
so
like, oh, it's got to keep going.
it's got to keep right. So I want to sidestep that. And so what I'm trying to do it by marrying all these different things, the smell of Bitcoin probably, pushing toward a higher target. Some of these meme coins looking a little toppy. Some of these other altcoins that really haven't even done anything, XRP, Litecoin, whatever, by comparison to some of these others. I think it's going to be very, very interesting. And it's not going to be a weapons free, just throw money at anything. I think you're going to have to be pretty strategic. Of course, I could be wrong, right? I've been wrong a million times before. They ain't going to stop.
Before we go, can you pull up GME?
Yeah, I haven't looked at GME in forever. So I don't know.
And like go to like the daily or the weekly or something.
Okay.
Dude, GME looks like Doge. It's crazy.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Like if Doge actually keeps going, there's a chance that something like GME revives itself. Doesn't it look like a massive like falling wedge channel or something going on there?
Yeah, I think
there's a very clear upper boundary for sure.
Just break out of that. Just get like one daily close above that and it's on.
I mean, the obvious question is, if the prior market conditions didn't make it break down, are the current ones going to? Probably not.
Right. Where are we right now?
If the crypto side is as silly as it is, then I'm not going to trade GME or Ripple, but that's a good sign for everything else. If you're in the memery that we are living in current year, that we're going higher,
MicroStrategy ran its all-time high. It's been consolidating there a bit. It's a really good sign if you're a MSTR bottom buyer. GBTC already consolidating at highs, above the last market high. Couple other things I'm going to show and then we'll wrap it up here, but here's funding. I know we like to talk about funding, and like Schmitty was saying, this thing did reset. These numbers were double or triple what they're showing now, back during the all-time high, before the big sell-off that occurred. So these look better, still not where I'd want to see them, to be honest, but it's absolutely better than it was. And the thing that I think is worth pointing out, and I'm just, I kind of, this stuff scares me. I'm just going to throw it out there.
Here we go. Oh,
yeah, gosh. I know. Look, here's the prior market all-time high. This is the prior Bitcoin all-time high. The green shows the amount of leveraged positions, so the money being borrowed for a position. At the time, it was roughly 20 billion. Let's say 20 billion. As of today, here we sit at about 30 billion. So the money borrowed is 50% higher than it was the last all-time high. Does that matter? I don't know, but if they unwind, and there's always times when they unwind, I think it's something that we got to keep in mind, that we're coming up to some pretty interesting levels, as far as on the charts, horizontals and stuff like that. And we have a lot of big positions that are going to have to close out or take profit. Maybe, right? Maybe there's so much money coming in at this point that these numbers are really, laughable, and they don't even matter anymore. 20 billion, 30 billion really is nothing, when if we could see in a crystal ball into the future, we're going to be at like 500 billion in borrowed funds at the coming all-time high or something. So who knows? I don't really know. I don't have any insight more than anybody else does, but borrowed money always makes me nervous, is all I'm trying to say.
If we separate the CME versus like the crypto versus non-crypto OI, I think it's healthier to see the CME OI rising than it is to see the crypto OI rising. Yeah.
That's probably fair. Is there a way to do that on the chart? Do you know?
If you scroll down, you can just, I don't think you can do one or the other, but the point is to see CME at the top there is, that's what we want to see, in my opinion.
Yeah.
That's likely related to ETF stuff. If we get options on the ETFs in a few months or whenever, we'll probably see even more OI, right? So I think we're just at a point in the cycle where we have, like you said, money coming in, more products. It's different than it was last cycle. I agree it's worrisome that OI is where it is, but I think this is kind of the new normal for OI. So I'm not really worried about that.
Doesn't it feel weird to just be like, yeah, we're going parabolic and that's fine. we're not even to the halving yet. We're still, what, 40 days out from the halving, 45 days out from the halving. So it's always different, right? That's the fun part of charts and trading and all that, is that it's never easy. If it'd be easy, everyone would be making $1 million. But
one last thing, it looks like New York Community Bank might be in trouble again today. I don't know if they're actually going to get taken over by the FDIC on Friday, but generally Bitcoin likes banks exploding. So
it's very evil of Bitcoin.
I mean, look at SVB. Look what happened there. Look at that. You know, if they have some BTFP program for CRE, which would be a disaster.
Yeah.
But if they do some quiet QE maneuvers again, Bitcoin's going to explode to the top side. Gold is going to explode to the top side.
Well, if I was a evil market maker and that's the wrong term. If I was an evil, help me, Schmitty, what's the Wycovian market maker term?
Composite operator.
Composite operator. If I was an evil composite operator, I would give a nice uptrend. I'd give nice consolidation, bait everybody into margin longing it, give a nice breakout, and then run everybody stops before the next leg up. So this part of the chart, I'm actually a huge fan of. I think this is the most bullish thing we could possibly see. It's a great setup for another leg. Everybody who had stops, to this point was blown out. Anybody with a margin position, like Schmitty was talking about, has been blown out. So I think over a certain margin number, but I like this. I think the thing that could throw water on another leg up is this failing. So just like we were talking about, a bearish pattern failing is super, super uber bullish. Anytime you see some sort of, inverted head and shoulders or whatever, anytime you see one of these, if this starts to fail, if we make, say, a new low, below this level or whatever, I'd say that that's probably going to imply that there's more going on here than meets the eye. Maybe this just needs a lot more consolidation. Maybe it's going to be some kind of like macro bull flag or something. Like we just don't know what we're looking at quite yet. So before you go slamming the margin long, I would watch how just this little moment in time plays out. I think it's going to tell us a lot.
Yeah, if we break below that right shoulder, the odds that we go to 54 increase a lot.
Right. Because let's not forget, like where some of these key moving averages are. The daily 20, if TradingView wants to, there we go. The daily 20 is all the way down at 58. The weekly 20, which has a tendency of being hit. It was hit a couple months ago, so maybe we're not there yet. But the weekly 20 is down at 45,000. So I don't know. It's hard to look for a really exciting margin long move right in this moment. I'd love to see sideways consolidation to really add a lot of confidence to the next leg, but we'll just have to see.
I don't think we're gonna get it.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think it just sends it. I know because that is literally
don't think.
Worst case scenario, or Max Payne is just like continues to send it. Sideliners continue to be sidelined, shorters getting wrecked, on and on. All right. Anything else, ladies and gents, before we wrap it up?
I think that's it.
Okay. Guys, anything I want to shill? Anything new you're working on?
No.
YouTube.com/CropperNoctum is almost at 33K subs. So
let's go, dude.
We can do it together.
How fitting.
And then I can die
That's
happy.
funny.
Then I can immediately just croak and die happy.
That'll be it. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Again, apologies for the rocky start. I'm honestly surprised everything's running like it is, because I just plugged all the parts in and hit power, and here we are. So we're lucky we even made it this far. Guys, thank you all for being here for another Market Power Hour with Josh and Schmitty. These guys are the best in the biz. So we'll see you next time. We'll probably do another one here in a week or two. It's not going to be a weekly thing, but if there's like crazy activity, like how we broke the all-time high, we got to show up, right? I know we did one last week, so that's why we're here today. So anyway, thank you guys. We'll catch you later. I am not going to continue stream because I got to keep working on the computer. There's some things that are not right on it, and I just kind of duct taped it together for the stream. So I am getting off. Big love to you all. We will see you soon.